Hello, everybody. Welcome to the 4th episode of Comix Rant. Thank you for joining me. I am Arvin Bautista, and I am an animator by trade. But currently I am working on my comic book. My comic book is called The Bomb Squad. I am gonna do some inking in this episode for the 4th issue, hoping to finish up the whole arc that I had planned for this originally. So for now, I have, actually finished inking, so I'm kind of cheating, and, I'm going to talk through a time lapse of that after this portion. And this segment, I just kind of want to share some things that I ran into or like cool things that I found out about Procreate that I'm pretty sure everybody on the planet already knows. It's just, it kind of is nice for me to mentally, be able to put it on video format, I guess, and share with you. If you guys don't know any of this stuff, then it's going to be helpful. If not, it's going to be helpful for me. Okay, so for this part, I just kind of reverted back to a rough sketch. This is kind of what I work off of when I ink digitally. I'm using Procreate on my iPad, and it's a really cool program for this kind of stuff. I like being able to drag my iPad all over the place and just ink whenever, like clock in like a first 5 minutes to like an hour of inking time is always awesome wherever you can squeeze it. Okay, so let me zoom into this. And I've, in the beginning, the first few issues of the Bomb Squad, I was actually inking this stuff with a pencil, inking with a pencil. So I would have really clean lines. I'd go to Kinko's, which was like our local photocopy place. I think it's called Kinko's FedEx now, or something like that, or they're all FedEx now. And then I'd take my dark pencils and I would photocopy it to clean up all the other, to get rid of all the other grays, really. And then use that as my inks. And I've always been apprehensive about inking with a real, like, brush. So in the beginning, I would use, markers, right? Like fine tip markers, or, quill. I could go with quill because that's just what I knew. Like, I knew I could control it. Brushes kind of like, it always scared me because it was just harder. And I felt like you needed like a lot more control to be able to do the kind of stuff that I wanted to do. It doesn't matter what you use at the end of the day. Once I got older, I understood that, hey, you could use whatever you want. You could use ballpoint pens. You got Frank Cho busting out some crazy stuff with ballpoint pen sketches. But whatever works for you, learn it well, and that's what you should go with. So I didn't get, confident with the brush until maybe during these past Inktober. So that was like 5 years ago, 6 years ago, something like that. And some of that I kind of apply back onto inking it digitally, except now there's a lot of cool things you can do digitally. That's pretty awesome. So, okay. So one of the basic things I learned was how to hold the pen when I'm doing certain curves. So my comic has a clean line look. If that's not what you're going for, you probably don't really need to stress out too much about your super fine line quality at all. But what I ended up learning, and I think everybody who inks and does these kind of like fine line artwork kind of learns it already. I don't think I ever really heard anybody say it. They would just go off and do it. I guess because it's so logical. Duh. Like, why is there a need to say it? So when I would ink something and I wanted something clean, I would kind of plant my palm down and then kind of just use this to rotate, use my fingers to rotate. Some people are better with brush control, so they can kind of use their wrist or sometimes their arm, and they get much better control over it. Like, there's some people on YouTube that are doing like these amazing, cartoon characters. I just saw it, the other day. They were doing like, who was it? Like Elmer Fudd or something like that. Just something like classic. and Aang from Avatar. And it was great. It's like this really huge drawing, and he had just like the greatest like brush control. It was amazing. Anyway, sorry, this is the rant part of Comix Rant. I just start gushing over everybody else's stuff. So what I would do, what I learned is like when I would make these lines, right? Like it would be kind of like, this is how I got a lot of control. And when I began comics and drawing in general, I'm just so tight on a lot of detail, or the way where I would place a line. And like, you know, I would really be in there trying to like hatch things like this. Actually, I think I would even go slower than this. But I found like the looser you get, or if you really wanted a clean line, it's actually better when you go fast. Of course, there's control, but it's actually nice when you're not trying to really lay it down like this and like, okay, I gotta make sure I'm following that line perfectly like this and all that kind of stuff. That's what I did for a long time. Until I found like, oh, hey, when I actually do like a quick stroke like this, it'll actually get me the line that I want. Like the quality of it is cleaner, and it's sharper. And I think that's kind of what clicked. So as I got older, being so tight just got harder to, like, you know, I could get away with it when I was younger. And then I found like, you know, man, this hurts my wrist. So I had to kind of figure out a different way and kind of evolve. I'm still kind of detail oriented, but no, I think I'm starting to loosen up with the way I ink stuff. So let's take this like lightning bolt for example. Like, it's just like a quick stroke. You just kind of like do that, try to get to where you want it. Nowadays, digitally, you know, I can do these undos and not really care. You know, and once you start loosening up, just gets much nicer. So, oh, okay, so it tightened up right there in that line. I don't know if you saw that, but if you can just go fast, you'll even get like this nice like taper on your line there. And then sometimes I'll just go in there, and because, you know, I want this stuff to look super sharp, I'll kind of go in there and clean this line up. Ooh. This must be a little weird for me to prop up my iPad like this, but you should be able to see it big too. I just wanted you guys to see like what kind of like things I kind of do. The way I hold the pen is kind of helpful for me. So, and again, this is one way to do it. This is not the way to do it. I think that's the best part about art. So I can kind of give you some ideas, and maybe you can try it out. If it doesn't work for you, then try some other way to do it. You know, there's like Eric Larson, who holds his pencil like this, and it's actually kind of cool, like the way he does that. Then, like, you know, his wrist doesn't lock up so much because now he's using like his whole arm doing this thing. And that's how they taught us in art school, how to hold like charcoal and stuff like that. And it also helps you loosen up a bit. So it's not only good for your arm and your hand, it's good for the way that you are dropping down your marks. You kind of get like these nicer marks and line quality and all that kind of jazz, which took me a while to break out of. And first year of art school was definitely like that. I remember my illustration class, I think, was with this guy named Al de Credico, and he was like an abstract artist. Not to worry, this channel is not about ragging on all my past like teachers or anything like that. If anything, it's about thanking them for doing certain things and being in certain parts of my art life to figure out some stuff of the way I would draw later or draw now. Anyway, so Al de Credico was like an abstract fine artist, I believe. You know, like when you look at his stuff, it would be just like these paintings that you really had to sit there and kind of like see like the feeling that, you know, it's like all this kind of stuff that you would think about artists and all this like heady kind of things. But the thing that I took away from his class, and I know a lot of people hated it. Sorry, Al. I didn't. Especially now, looking back at it, I didn't, because it, like I said, I was so tight. You know, I'm coming from comic book background. Everybody has like this certain kind of line hatching, Jim Lee style, Todd McFarlane, you know, just very tight. And his class just made me loosen up, because that was what he was breaking us in to do. I feel that's what he was doing. And obviously that's how his art comes out. And I think it really helped a lot for me to kind of try to think a little different. You know, it's not at all how I do my stuff now, and but it really helped. It really helped me to kind of like broke me down in freshman year, and then college kind of brought me back up, so I could kind of like have these tools that I could choose from and pick and understand why I did certain things. It was great. It was really great. Anyway, okay. So for me, like, to get like these, this kind of like sweeping curves, like they would, I like it when I work bigger like this or faster, and I do this kind of stroke that's just super easy to lay down. Now, that's how I kind of learned doing this stuff. So brush strokes are in the same way, same mentality, right? Like, that's how you do it. And there's a certain angle that my arm won't be able to do it anymore, right? Like, if you want to go this way, you can try doing it, right? But I don't think I'm coordinated enough to do this kind of curve. I can kind of try to do it, like, right? I'm kind of used to it. Yeah, I'll be like, all right, yeah, that's good enough. But if you really want like a nice controlled line, then that's why you would have to flip your paper around to try to get that kind of curve, right? There's just certain angles and certain curves that your wrist can do naturally. It might not be the same as mine. And you need to find that. Don't try to force it one way if it's just not working. Do it another way. Now, here's the genius of modern technology. Kind of makes everybody lazy, like myself. So I knew that Procreate could do this. Like, you could draw a line, right? Okay, that's messed up. But if you hold it down, it makes your line straight. And now you can kind of like, move it around. Why am I showing this on the camera? You can see this on the larger screen, but all right. You can move it around, and it's totally cool. So when I was doing the panel borders, this came in super handy, because I would just, so say it's, let's get rid of some of these things. Let's get rid of these borders, right? When I did these panel borders, I would just go there, and then boom, now it's straight. And then, okay, let's fix it. And here and here. Okay, now it's straight. Awesome. Here and here. Straight. Awesome. Here and here. And I didn't have to futz around with it too much. You just hold the pen down, and it'll straighten itself out, which is nice. Now, while I was doing this too, I didn't realize this. Maybe I should read a fact about Procreate before I start jumping in there. Nah. And what you can do is it'll do it for curves too, which is great. So, like, you know, if you hold it down, now it's like this nice curve, and it even retains my line weight. Right? So it'll be like this nice curve. It'll only do it for semicircles, I believe. So, like, here, let's just ink this guy's face. Okay, I'm doing it again. Why am I showing the small camera when I can show you guys on screen? So let's draw this guy's face. Here's the side of his face. This is just me doing this freehand. Right? And Procreate is pretty nice because the brushes on it will fix it a little bit. So it's a nice little cheat. And it's perfect if you just want to do it fast. So, okay, so his eyes are like that. That's easy. Now, oh, here. So let's say it's this curve right here. Oh, you know what? You still need to maintain a sense of speed here. Okay. So you can kind of move that curve around like this, which is neat. But I usually like my lines to taper. So it needs to be a little fast. But it'll come in handy for, like, say, this, right? So now it's like this nice clean line. Here, I'll make it more obvious because I'm making these lines kind of there. Ooh, look at that. Pretty. Right? It's like, whoa, oh, look at me, I'm shaky. It's okay, Procreate to the rescue. So I stumbled upon that and I was like, oh, that's kind of neat. And then I started thinking, well, maybe it could smooth out a bunch of my other curves. But, you know, it'll only do like a half circle, which is still pretty good. So like this nose of this guy, they can kind of do this. If you hold it down, it loses all shape. So we don't want... It can't do these multiple curves, but that's all right. You just draw that then. Whoop. Oh yeah, see. So for that one, for that nose, it's also important where you start your line and where you end. So it's still the same, right? Like that's how brushes work. Usually when you oh, you know what? This is something I found out too. So when I'm doing Inktober, the real brush behaves a different way from how they do it on digital brushes. Or maybe I'm just holding my brush wrong. I don't know. But like, so if I'm doing like a thin line on real brushes, right, with real brushes, I find that where I start, I think it might be because of how I hold it. So I'll hold the brush like this sometimes. So the thin line will start at the beginning and then I can make it fat at the end. And vice versa. Naturally, I think that's just the way I hold it because maybe I'm not pressing down so hard at the beginning. So there's that kind of control. But I think in general, like digital brushes, I feel like they are a little fatter in the beginning and then I can control the taper at the end. So if I wanted like this lightning bolt, say like I wanted the tip of this line to be sharp, I will start fat and thin. But for traditional inking, I think I will actually ink it from the top, from the bottom up like this. Well, I would turn the piece of paper and do it like this. And it would be thinner at the start and I would get a fatter line at the end. I think that's might be just the way I hold it, but I found it really interesting that it was the opposite. It behaved opposite. Maybe I'm opposite. Okay. So anyway, let's see. When you do the curve on his nose, so I think earlier I did it like that. Oh, hey, did I just lie? I think I just did it. I just tapered it at where I started. Okay. User error. Oh, okay. So maybe that's just how I'm comfortable. So I'll do it like that. It's just how comfortable I am with that last taper, I think, is how I'm doing this. So if I can actually do it this way. From the top to the bottom. It's not as sharp as I'd like. I think that's why. Okay, so that is much sharper than if I did it from here. Oh, yeah. So see, it's still kind of like I start nitpicking the quality of my line at this point. But I like it when I end it, the shape of my taper in digital, I think. Right. So I can, or maybe I can control it better, or I like the way it looks better with how I'm ending it. See, even this nose looks better on the way I end it like that. Sorry, I'm real-time dissecting my artwork as I'm doing this. Yeah. So anyway, that's how I would do it. All right. So now we will switch to doing some commentary as I do a time lapse of the actual ink page. And so I will be back in a couple shakes. Welcome back to Comix Rant. This is the second half where I will run through a time lapse of the inking process that I did in Procreate, and I'll just talk over it and kind of like mentally recall what was going on. And to me, it's decompressing too. So let's play this and let's take a look at what's going on. So for this one, I had to import an old copy of my pages. So when I'm inking it in Procreate, there's a certain line thickness that I have to be aware of, and just to match with how I used to do it before. So the first issue was done with me drawing on paper and really pressing down hard with pencil, and then taking it to Kinko's and photocopying it. So it has a certain line thickness that I would try to achieve. The second one I think was a mix, and it would be somewhat digital because I think I had my Cintiq. And then the third issue was all digital. And so is this one. Except now, instead of working on my Cintiq, I'm working on my iPad, which is a different fidelity, right? So I took some of my old pages and kind of started matching the line weight for that. So that way, when I put them all together, it's all uniform. Okay, so right now, I'm just drawing another layer of sketch to kind of tighten up my thumbnails. This is just the way I work. It helps me to organize the images better and kind of like see it like closer to finish when I do it like this. And you can kind of see, like on the third panel, it just happened. I started readjusting certain things, like his hand, how far away is his hand, the size of his head, and all that kind of stuff in relation to each other. And for me personally, I can't quite see how it's going to work. Oh, see, so it looks like I just changed the position of his hand right there as well. I can't quite see how it works until it starts getting tighter. And then I can see like, oh, you know, my gesture is not really realistic. It's not going to fit this. Even though I try to keep that as much as possible. Okay, so this stage looks like I'm starting to really get tight and do the final inks. And I'm doing that trick that with Procreate where you can hold the line down and get like a cleaner edge. And for this dollar sign, it definitely helped a lot for me to keep it clean. But it's a great tool, but I don't think it's okay if it wasn't there, because I've kind of gotten used to not nitpicking my lines so much that it has to be that clean. I've kind of gotten used to it not being perfect. And if I try to perfect it, it just takes too long. I'll never get anything done. I remember I looked at Jeff Darrow's stuff before and hard-boiled. And I remember, in my head, that book, that he had such a clean line. And he does, right? But I thought it was like this very smooth line. But if you go back in there and look at that book, anything with Jeff Darrow's work, his line is actually a lot more organic than what I thought it was. And I thought like, oh, like if he can do it kind of like that, maybe I can learn to do that too. Like to kind of trust the mark that I'm making and have a certain quality to it that I'll be happy with. And so like I've been inking things like circles, and all that kind of stuff. And it wouldn't be a perfect circle. It just wouldn't. And I just wouldn't nitpick over it because I cannot possibly draw a perfect circle with my hand. And that's not the skill I want to train myself in, right? I don't want to learn how to draw a perfect circle. That's not the point. Okay. So anyway, here I'm blocking in the blacks now. So there's like heavier silhouette, and heavier, shapes that kind of dictate where your eye starts looking. And I'm doing this thing where I will make things pop out by giving them a thicker line. So the closer it is to you in that space, right? If it's his leg or his hand, I will outline it with a thicker outline. and anything behind will have a relatively thinner outline as it recedes into space as I draw it. My characters are super flat, so I don't know if you even notice it, but it helps me organize like what I want you to look at the most. And it's a good tool. My style is obviously influenced by Powerpuff Girls, Dexter's Laboratory, all that kind of stuff, but it's also influenced by Adam Hughes, Brian Stelfreeze, that like high contrast, and I'm not even sure they use thick line as much as I do anymore. But that's where I kind of like saw it, and I liked it. Alphonse Mucha does it with his figures, right? There'd be this nice, they're like these very realistic characters, but then they'd use like this very graphic device, like a thick line, to denote the shape of their realistic character. And I kind of like it, like it's kind of almost like cartoons where the character looks different from the background. Okay, so it looks like I'm wrapping this up with the fourth panel. And this is kind of, these characters I've found when I make background characters, I like to make them stand out with the way I draw their eyes. So background characters in my comics usually have dots for eyes, right? They're not super distinctive or super detailed. Or their eyes are closed. So they're not making eye contact with you. Maybe mentally in my head, I feel that you see a lot of character through someone's eyes. So I guess that makes sense why Bomb Girl looks like that. She has like these giant eyeballs on her face. And that's how these police officers look like, or most of them. If I don't really want to call too much attention to them, I'll have them blinking, or dots for eyes, and or there's one character where I have his hat just kind of like over his eye like this, and he's always going to be the background character guy, right? Like we don't really get to know him. Who knows? Maybe like 50 issues from now, he'll be like the main character of the Bomb Squad, and I'll eat my words. But for now, that's kind of how I designed them as characters, to kind of make them, I don't know, to kind of make them recede visually. So the main characters you'll be engaged more with the way that their eyes look. And, I break that rule every now and then. Sometimes there's a character in there with like eyeballs. But in general, that's how I kind of treat it. That's for me. Obviously, it doesn't work for everybody, right? Like you got little orphan Annie who has blank eyeballs, right? And she's the main character. You have like Crazy Cats who has dots for eyes, Charlie Brown, all that kind of stuff. But for me, like mentally, that's just how I'm thinking and I'm processing these characters. Okay, so now let's move on to the comic nerdy rant. I brought a book today called Dororo, and this is another Osamu Tezuka book that I got into fairly late. I'm 44 years old, so even though it's 12 years ago, it is fairly late for me, considering that I grew up with Tezuka's stuff with Astro Boy. I cite him as one of my influences for this book, and even like the first time I saw animation happen was with Osamu Tezuka's Astro Boy in the credits, the final credits scene. It clicked in my head, like seeing these multiple images being shown slowly of him running, and then it would speed up as the credits roll by. That animation was drawn with single images. So Dororo came out, I think it says 2008. Oh, 2008. Yeah, 2008. So like 12 years ago. And there was maybe it was probably like some kind of anniversary for Tezuka Productions or something. But it was all around that time that a lot of these Tezuka works got re-released or had like video games made out of them. Some of my favorite games came out with that IP, and it was with a developer called Treasure, and they did Astro Boy on the Game Boy Advanced. I know this is Comix Rant, but it's an awesome game. I think it is one of my favorite games to this day. Period. It's not even favorite game on the Game Boy Advance. It's really good, and it's from one of my favorite developers, Treasure. And it's just lovingly made, and it's got a lot of like Osamu Tezuka callbacks, Easter eggs. I don't know. So like all his characters from his comics show up there, even though they're not from Astro Boy. They're woven into the story and all that kind of stuff. And then the other game that came out was Blood Will Tell, which is the story of this book, Dororo. And it was on the PS2, and it was tuned so that it wouldn't be too hard. So I think so that people that got into Tezuka's stuff, right, and wanted to play a game or whatever, or wanted to play Blood Will Tell, could just get into it and enjoy it, and then, you know, not be punished for not being able to play first-person shooters or something like that. And then, of course, this was released. I think it's around the same time. I could be wrong, but I think that's why Vertical Press did these books. And there's only 3 of these, and the story is all done. So it's really easy to get into. It's why I got into it, right? Like, and plus, it's Tezuka, and it's like a work of his that I kind of heard of, but I never really knew about. And I think someone reviewed it on a site, comic book site. I can't remember what. And I saw some art, and I was like, wow, that's great looking stuff. And it is great looking stuff. So the little plot of this book is that in the beginning, there's this like super bad guy that wants to be even more super bad. So he contacts like 48 demons, and sacrifices something of his, which was not even him. It was actually his son. And he doesn't care because he's the super bad. So he sacrifices 48 pieces of his son to these demons. I did not even know you had 48 pieces to be able to sacrifice, right? So that's what happened in the beginning of this book. And then the son, whatever was left over of the son, I guess he was still alive, was shipped out in a basket and floated off on a river, I think by a monk that was there. In any case, the son escapes, right? He gets sent out. Oh, his mom actually did it. Oh, I see. Because he sacrifices his son while he was still in the womb. Am I saying that right? And so when he was born, he was kind of messed up. Like he was missing all sorts of parts. But, you know, the mom loves his son. They don't actually kill him off, but they do get rid of him. And they put him in a basket, Moses style. Kind of reverse Moses, right? Because they didn't want him. And he went down the river. Down by the river. And I think a kindly couple finds him. Or actually, no, it was just one guy that I think was a craftsman of some sort. I think he was more than just a carpenter. A doctor. He was a doctor. Which is, I believe, what Tezuka wanted to be, or that's what he studied as, a doctor. And then he decided, I'm going to draw comics, which is awesome for all of us. And, oh, here he is as a baby. Like, he didn't even have, he didn't have eyeballs. But he was moving around. And he could communicate with, telepathy. So he could actually, project his thoughts to his dad, to his, foster dad, and say, hey, I'm hungry. Give me something to eat. But his dad crafted parts for him. crafted like all these parts for him so he could be like a normal guy. So, you know, after he gets shipped off in the comic, right? We have a flash forward. Like when he's old. And this is the main character, Hyakimaru. It's not Dororo, is it? Yeah, is it a little too blurry? Let's find a better one so you can actually see it. Hyakimaru is his name, and we see him walking around. You know, he's not missing any parts. He seems to be pretty cool. Super cool. He's got like hair brushed over his one eye, which is awesome, right? Because that's all super cool characters are. That's how I did my Kid Hotshot design. Here, there you go. That's a better image. But he's got this cool like pattern on his robe or his gi, I guess, or his robe. Somebody please correct me. Internet help. And I actually don't know what it is. It looks like the Rebel Alliance icon from Star Wars, but I don't know what it is. It looks like anchors to me. Maybe it actually means something else, but I just like the pattern of it and the look of it, and it looks great. Especially when he puts him against certain things, and he stands out because of the pattern. You know, you can it's like a very iconic read, and it's great. And a lot of his stuff here, Tezuka's stuff here, has a lot of pattern. And it's, you know, maybe it's like the studio people that he hired doing this kind of stuff, but it's got a nice visual look that's very different, or I think it's very different from his Astro Boy stuff. Right? There's a lot of grays going on here. Anyway, so during Inktober, one of those years, in Inktober maybe, I was already working on my other comic book. I'll take a break from Inktober and draw a pinup, right? Or take a break from drawing my comic and draw a pinup. And I don't know about you guys, but I have a harder time whenever I just draw even one panel for a comic book, because there's a lot of things going on that I have to be aware of, like composition of the panel, where things are in space, right? Like what I'm trying to show in that panel. It's a storytelling thing. And what came before that and what will come after, right? What do I need to set up so that I can move on to the next one? And it's all made up, right, in my head. I don't plot it out, especially for Inktober. There's no time to do that. I kind of know I want to fight, and here's this thing happening, and kind of go with the flow. It's hard. It's really hard for me to do it, as opposed to a pinup. A pinup is like, yeah, I'm just going to draw this character that I think is cool in whatever pose I want, and that's it. I don't have to think about it. So those are my break days, right? Like I'll probably have 2 of those during Inktober, just to kind of like help my brain relax, because it's still drawing a day. Relax and get ready for the next panel that I have to do. And I based mine off of this monster. Okay, so in Dororo, right, he's missing 48 pieces. Oh, I skipped this whole cool sequence. What am I doing? When he grows up, right, his dad gives him all these fake parts, and his mission is to get all his pieces back from these 48 demons. Genius, total genius. So he's traveling across Japan looking for these demons to get his body parts back. And, you know, you don't really know that in the beginning, but that's how we open, right? He's walking around doing his thing, and then I think there's like bandits or something. They want his stuff, whatever, right? He looks normal. Right? He's got hands. He's walking, so he must be normal. This is the first time you meet him. And then, you know, he's like, all right, let's get into it. You know, we're going to go fight. But the first thing he does is he drops his sword. What's going on? He's dropping his sword. And, you know, the next page is a reveal. What just happened? You know, there we go. Oh, he dropped his sword. I'm going to go grab it. Aha, sucker. I'm Hyakimaru. Look at my hands. Or don't look at my hands, because now they're off. He just flings them off, and he has blade hands. Maybe that's why I like this book so much. I have gun hands. He has blade hands. That is genius. It's so good. I did not know this book existed when I was drawing it, when I was drawing Gunman as a kid. But that is so cool. What's up? Yeah. And then he cuts everybody up. Because that's the only thing you can do with blade hands. And if you're spinning around, that's what's going to happen. Super cool. He just messes everybody up in one panel. Done. Boom. This is our main hero, Hyakimaru. So he's traveling. He's trying to get all these body parts in a super cool, stylish way. And it's 48 demons. So now he has to slay all these demons. All his personal demons, too. Because, you know, he did not grow up right with a dad like that, right? Missing all these body parts. And so in one of the stories, he encounters this demon that comes out of a well. And this is cool. It has a cool texture. It's like kind of furry, hairy, right? Kind of gross. And just all ink black. It's great. It looks great against all this like stark white and then the grays. It looks great, right? Your eyeball just goes right there. Here's your clear white that just goes, shh. Hey, look. Look at that. Crazy black hand coming out of a well. And then comes out like this, straight up. Awesome. And during Inktober, I started figuring out how to do like wet things, like rainy wet kind of effect, right? And I totally got into it. I kept doing it on like every piece, and I'd find any excuse I could. And so this was a great excuse. That image is actually here on the first page of this in the table of contents. So you can kind of dissect it a little bit better. He like does this great like feathering at the top of the what we're trying to say here, water droplets, right? And it has this nice kind of banding that happens, like this stripy banding. And I was totally getting into that. And then you can break through the banding with like the drippiness of it. Will Eisner does a lot of this stuff, and I love it. Like, you know, Eisner does it so well, so easily, effortlessly. I've always wanted to try it too, and so I was getting into it during this year of Inktober. So there you go. He's coming out of the well. This crazy silhouette, and that's not even the look of the bad guy. That's just like a cool silhouette. This is the look of the bad guy. What's up? Super cool. Look at that guy. And he renders him with just like this very simple line pattern to gray him out. And I love the designs of all the monsters in this series in Dororo. They look horrifying but cartoony at the same time, right? Like cartoony not in a bad way, like but in a fun way. It's like fun but scary. You know, not, you know, that's scary. But these eyeballs are awesome. Just leave them blank white, like perfect circular eyeballs, you know, like Mike Mignola does that with a lot of his monsters. And it's like this cool, cold and kind of creepy look for eyeballs, right? Like, I was just talking about eyeballs with my background characters and how they don't have any. Hopefully they're not creepy. But this works with this one. Like, super creepy, no eyeballs. Like, long tongue and gross. You know, but there's like such great panels with this thing, and it's super detailed thing, but he keeps drawing it and drawing it and drawing it. It's awesome. You know, it's very flexible, like the character design of this. It's fun. You can thrash it around, throw it around, look creepy. It could stand up, crawl fast. You know, you could draw it again, like in a silhouette. Fantastic. And, you know, some action-packed stuff. yeah, definitely this was one of my favorite monsters of this book. He runs through a lot, fights a lot of monsters, and they're all very cool. If you find a copy of it, buy it. Don't download it digitally. It is worth it. It is super awesome. Anyway, so awesome that I did my own fan art during the past Inktober doing that same thing. So that image just stuck in my head, right? So now I'm combining both of these images, like the silhouette of the thing, but also the round eyeballs. And, you know, I'm getting into this feathering stuff, and I don't know if you can see it, if it'll focus very well here. Of the lines. Oh, it's a little blurry. Maybe I can find a better scan of it and edit it back in there. And then, you know, I love those anchor things. I don't know what they are. The Rebel Alliance symbol that's all over his jacket. It's super cool. And, you know, that wet environment that comes out of the well, you know, it's creepy. It's behind him. It's like, you know, because it was just such a cool concept to me, I thought. And the book is so fun. This was an easy one. This was something that I kind of thought of like before Inktober, I think. I was like, what can be my rest? And, you know, just for fun kind of drawing that I can just do, right? When it's late at night and I just want to get it done. And this character, admittedly, I picked because he has a lot of black shapes, silhouettes that happen on there, and I can play around with it. So anyway, that's it. That was fun. Now, for the real nerd out, as I'm drawing these Bum Squad pages, my kids are going to summer class, and one of their classes is a comic book class. And my daughter, who's turning 8 real soon, got into it. I've had like little projects with them with Shelter in Place when it's first started. I did a little kind of like comic jam with them, and I would draw a panel, someone would ink it, and then someone would color it, and then someone else gets to draw a panel. I will ink it, someone else will color it, and so on and so on. I have 2 daughters, so there's 3 of us going through this. And it was fun. Just hard to maintain attention, because what are you doing while someone is penciling it, right? Nothing. Your attention will go somewhere else because you're waiting your turn. But we did get to do 1 page of that stuff, and it was cool. We had fun. I had fun, at least. So they took this comic book class, and it's impressive. Like, you know, as I'm like doing YouTube videos, like, yay, I finished my first page. My daughter just busted out 6 pages of comics in probably the same time, maybe even shorter time than I did. And it's great. Look at this stuff. I'm just being proud dad. But look at this stuff. She is turning 8, and I have copies of my comic book stuff, Gunman and stuff like that, when I was her age, and it didn't look anywhere this awesome. She's hitting that Watchmen 9-panel grid right there. You know, she's got lettering, poof, like great colors. And, get this. This is like all outdoors, and she has the sky and the sun. Yeah, there's a sun, there's a star. Awesome. But then she also has them going into a castle. And in that castle, the color scheme's totally different. I don't think I even figured out how to do that until like college or something. Like, to denote a change in environment with your colors. Yeah. My daughter's way ahead of me. And she just created all these characters. Got all George Perez in there. What's going on? Everybody and their pet shape is in there. What is going on? You know? This is work. This is love. Look at that. It's awesome. And she did this, you know, this is the kind of juice that I need, right? This is the kind of juice that I want to be running on. Like, you know, my daughter's just drawing this, and she got into it, you know, for a good 3 days. The day that they started doing this comic, she just wanted to do this all day. You know, I actually had to say, hey, we're eating now, you know, put that stuff down. You know, I actually had to stop her from doing this stuff, and I was fantastic. I was super proud. You know, I'm not trying to push whatever hobby they want from me, right? Like, I want them to find their own. If they find it awesome, that's great. If they find doing something else awesome, that's great. You know, I just want them to find that and have fun with it. But, you know, I can't help but be proud that my daughter has drawn 5 pages more than I have in full color, right? In full color. This is great. One time she saw, you know, so while they're drawing, this is what's great. While they're drawing, I'm drawing comics too. And my daughter would be like, oh, what are you doing now? Do you want to draw some comics? I'm like, yeah, I do want to draw some comics, honey. That's awesome. And she saw me finish the page, right? Like what I just did. She saw me inking it, and there's no color. And she's like, oh, you don't color it until you're done. And, you know, the way that she phrased the question was almost like thinking like, oh, maybe she's doing it wrong. And I was like, no, you know, how do you do, however you do it, keep doing it that way. You know, like, you know, she has 6 pages of this stuff. You know, if you draw it, if you like drawing it and then lettering it and coloring it, do it that way. You know, don't do it the way that I'm doing it. Whatever makes you draw those comics, you know, I did not want to stop her from doing that. And certainly not getting stuck in a process that, you know, it's only in my head that I have to do it like this, but it's not the way to do it, right? Like, there are many ways to do it. And I certainly didn't want her to stop and follow mine, because I only got 1 page out of that process, right? Anyway, just wanted to share that with you guys, share my pride. And I think that's it for this episode of Comix Rant. Thank you for joining me, and we will see you next episode where why am I saying we all the time? Where I will be coloring in this page. And thank you for subscribing, for the people who came on board and subscribed recently. And please like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed this episode. If you didn't enjoy this episode, please do it anyway, because I need subscription things. Apparently, that's how YouTube works. But thank you. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got something out of it. I do whenever I talk through my process, and I can kind of dissect it better for myself next time. Thank you for joining me, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.